Welcome to Mead Evangelist. This is a series of videos intended to be informational and instructional. I like to know why, what, and how as the three primary things that I need to tackle whenever I explore something new. Hopefully, these videos will do just that as they relate to the world or process of making mead, and hopefully better mead. If you find them useful, great. Thank you for watching, and good luck. Here we are again, and today what I'm going to do is dry some Kveik yeast. This yeast actually came from a mead that I made earlier, which was a pear mead, and after racking it, I pulled the slurry off and added some distilled, or in my case RO water, to it, and got it thoroughly mixed, and then put it into this glass jar to separate. Normally with yeast that I'm washing, which I don't do very often, but if I do, I like to put it in a much taller and narrower container, like a Bellissima bottle or something like that, because the yeast will separate into three layers, and it's the center layer that you want to grab. For some reason though, Kveik doesn't seem to separate out that way, so in this case I didn't bother. So what I've done is I've got a fairly new cookie sheet that I only use actually for brewing, and I've lined it with plastic wrap, and this would be the typical kind of plastic you use in your cooking in the kitchen. Comes out nice and sterile. Everything's been sanitized. I've got a dump bucket here, and we're going to pour off the top layer of water and then get this kind of mixed up. At that point, I'm going to simply lay some ribbons of the yeast slurry down onto the plastic. Then a fan is going to go inside the assembly, and it'll be covered with a black hardware tub like this. That'll keep insects, if there are any in the house here. It is spring, so a lot of stuff moving around, and that'll keep it fairly sanitary. It's impossible in this circumstance to keep your yeast completely sanitary, or for that matter sterile, which is totally impossible. So we're going to do the best that we can and not worry about it. Kveik is a rather durable yeast, and it easily outcompetes most of the bacteria and things that you would find in your typical environment. In fact, in Norwegian farmhouses, the way that they manage their yeast is they put it on a Kveik ring, which is a bunch of interlocking wooden segments that literally form a Christmas wreath, and they put it in the bottom of their fermenters after fermentation's been complete, and then they pull it out and they hang it on an iron rod in the barn and let it dry. And they've been managing the yeast that way for a long time, so I'm not too worried about my physical environment contaminating the yeast. Obviously, over time, with many generations of it, I expect there will be some changes to make it into my version of Kveik. At that point, I'll probably replace it with a new purchase and move on. This is my fourth generation. I've been using this yeast for about 3 or 4 years at this point. Still no detectable off flavors, and you'll see how it comes out. It turns into kind of a flaky or leathery consistency, and that stuff can go straight into the freezer. In the past, I've been storing it in the refrigerator, but after talking with Lars Marius Garshall, he said no, it's actually better to put it in the freezer. So that's what we're going to do with this one. Let's get going and see how this all turns out. So first thing is to dump this off. There's nothing useful in this top layer really. Okay, so now what we got is a really thick milkshake consistency slurry. Now I'm going to avoid the corner here because that's where I want to put the fan. And I'm going to try to run these ribbons down the center of the plastic wrap so that it doesn't seep under where the plastic wrap is laid over the top of the next one. There we go. Yeah, it really is like a milkshake. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to kind of bang or jog the cookie sheet to flatten the slurry out a bit, because it's really thick. All right, that is good enough. So let's give that a little jog. And now you can see, I mean, it's not even going to run here. That is what it looks like. And that's a good consistency for us. So now we can get the fan, put that in place, and then cover it up with the hardware tub. And that makes a pretty nice seal. I mean, it's not perfect, of course, but it's good enough to keep out any airborne stuff that I'm kind of worried about. We'll turn the fan on and we'll come back in a day and check it. Okay, well, here we are, and it's afternoon, the day after I started drying the yeast. I checked on it last night before bed and it wasn't quite where I wanted it to be, so I let it go. Let's take a look and see what it looks like. All right, that looks good. Let's get an overhead shot, and I'll put some gloves on before I handle the yeast so you can see what everything looks like. This is what it looks like after an overnight dry. I've got my bag all ready to go, labeled, and you can see these are thin but nice flakes, and it breaks up pretty easily. So I'm going to load them all in. Wearing the gloves just because there's no point in introducing anything new that doesn't need to be there. Can't keep it sterile, so that's an impossibility, but why add any extra things to the mix? Do the best you can. And then this will get used in the meat at some point in the near future. So that's really all there is to it. This exercise produced 64 grams of net solids. Someday I will sit down and rehydrate some of it and do a cell count and viability test, but that's not going to be today. Would I do this with another kind of yeast? No, I don't think so. Kveik has developed so it produces a large reserve of trehalose according to recent studies, and this is believed to be a major factor in its long-term viability, especially with the kind of handling that's been done in Norwegian farmhouses. I hope you found this useful. If you do undertake this experiment or use it on a regular basis, your mileage may vary, but hopefully it will work for you. Good luck, and thanks for watching.